So let us get started once again, and thank you for staying with us. Just now, I found myself reminded of what has been said to be the greatest mantra in the world, and that is simply two words: thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As we were so reminded on Joel's wonderful recording just now, that can be our constant state of awareness. Thank you that there is only one power. Thank you that there's only one substance. Thank you that in reality I and my Father are one. Thank you that there's only one time right now and one place right here. Here and now. Thank you, Father. God is, I am. Thank you that there's only one. And I suppose the other greatest mantra in the world that ever was can be reduced just down to one word, and that word is one, or just is. Beautiful mantras. Thank you. One is. Or you could combine them. Thank you. One is. Thank you that one is. I think most of our upset, the upset that we experience in this human sense of life, comes because it's a matter of where we're placing our attention. I just heard recently that word attention comes from the Latin attendere, something like that. Means to, and tendere, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, means to stretch forth. So to stretch forth to. What do we do as human beings, mostly, is we stretch forth that attention to objects, forms out here in time and space. And we're always invited to let that consciousness that I am sink back, that attention to be withdrawn back into its source, the one pure awareness. Not that we're trying to get rid of forms or change forms or consider forms or objects the enemy or the trouble or whatever. We're just putting our hope, faith, reliance, our trust where it belongs, back into source, into consciousness. Because as we know, Mary Baker Eddy gave us that wonderful statement, Christian Science statement of being. There is no life, truth, intelligence, nor substance in matter. You could say objects in forms. All is infinite mind, or we would say infinite consciousness, awareness, and its infinite manifestation, spiritual manifestation. So it's all about letting our awareness fall back. We could do that right now. You know, if we find ourselves stretching forth some thought, it could be a sound in the background, it could be anything where we are. You don't even have to force consciousness back. You just immediately let go of where the mind is putting its attention to and let it sink back into its original source, substance. It's where all the law all the power lies, as Joel reminded us on the recording. It's not out here. It's in the I am. Even if you bring attention to the body or to the breathing or whatever, in order just to anchor yourself in the now moment, it's closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. And it almost seems like we're contracting, but actually that's just a trick of the mind, because we're actually expanding into that infinite nature of our conscious awareness, which is totally beyond any pairs of opposites, good or evil. I got in my car this morning to come down here, close the door. I noticed that apparently water had gotten in through my windshield. It rained last night pretty heavily. And it had left a mark, and it almost seemed like the dashboard was cracked where the water got in. And I'm looking at it and saying, what the heck is going on here? How did that happen? My car is not that old. I keep it in good shape. Windshield is not cracked or anything. I was wondering, but I needed to get going, so I turned on the car and turned on the windshield wipers. All of a sudden, the crack in the water, everything was gone. It was just a shadow being projected through the raindrops on the windshield. Isn't that a wonderful lesson right there? That's all it ever is. So we have this substance called water, which an infinite wave friend I was talking to over the weekend reminded me, what's water? Oh, it's a combination of gases. That's all it is. You could say it's a bunch of hot air almost. Just a combination of gases. Hydrogen, oxygen. Apparently we can't live without it, humanly speaking. No food would grow. Bodies would dry up. So important. So good, quote unquote. And then yet you have too much of it down in the south, in the city, in Texas. So what is it? Is it good or is it bad? Or is it both? No, the human mind, human sense of mind, has the belief in good and evil. And so, thus it appears. One day life-giving, apparently, seemingly, the next day destructive. And what is it destroying? Homes, more objects, lives, bodies, possessions. You listen to the news, they talk about, oh, the poor kids, they lost all their earphones, they can't listen to their music and this and that. And we're compassionate, we see through that, we know, humanly speaking, materially speaking, seems to be a lot of destruction and loss and things like that. What did the Master remind us of? He said, destroy this temple and in 3 days it will be rebuilt. He wasn't just talking about himself. Any temple, any object, because it's all in consciousness. And let's be careful. When I hear from students that say, well, thank you for your help, or I was meditating and this thing that happened didn't happen where I was. Didn't happen in my neighborhood. Didn't happen in my town. Didn't happen in my state. Or a lot of the news is from across the sea. Didn't happen in my country. As long as we have it as happening anywhere and a power anywhere, it's happening in us and to us, because it's all happening in that belief, the miasma of human belief, which is actually no part of our consciousness. Let's get that straight once and for all. But we can seemingly plug our sense of mind, the human sense of mind, into all that belief and thus experience it. So we address it in our awareness as if it were in there, but it's not. We've just temporarily plugged into it, and we need to make that disconnection. Because the whole world seemingly is thinking that that's where power lies. It's in a substance called water or in an activity called weather. What is weather? Again, weather is just the activity of the atmosphere. What is atmosphere? What is activity? It has to be God. God ordained, God sustained, God manifested, God appearing. Whether it seems to be happening in back of our eyes, like in a sense of me, or in front of our eyes in a sense of out there, it's all happening in that same place. Whether we're going to plug into that belief system. And yes, even though, as Joel said on the recording, in one perspective, in the relative, this has some truth to it, like vitamins and things, and there seems to be a sense of food that's healthy and another sense of food that's not, etc. And if we plug into that system, that's what we're going to be experiencing. And we have respect for the way things appear to human sense. We have respect, but we don't have concern. That's the big difference there. We may have to respond, like sending aid down to the area that was devastated, doing this or doing that, following the dictates of spirit, maybe making a change in diet if it comes to us to do that. But never concern, never worship, never making it a religion, never being so fussy. I remember when years and years ago in the 70s, before I found the Infinite Way, I was living at a yoga ashram in the Chicago area. And I was a vegetarian. Most of the people there, I think all the people there were vegetarians. And we used to get together for community meals. And a woman that attended the ashram there, the meetings there, owned a restaurant in Chicago. And I guess they had prepared, a large amount of food that had been prepared that day, but it wasn't selling. So she packed it all up. She brought it out to the ashram for our community meal. It was spaghetti and something or other, we were eating that. Then we found out that they hadn't strained all the meat out of it before they brought it to us. So there were little granules occasionally, and 3 or 4 of the community members there that were at that meal got up immediately, ran to the bathroom and stuck their fingers down their throat because they didn't want that. And, I could see their point, but do we need to go to that extent? Attached to those beliefs so powerfully that we would do something like that. I'm not making fun of this. I'm just saying it's a good point. Infinite Way is the middle path, neither good nor evil. Moderation, we don't give power like that to anything. As Joel said, Joel was reminded by the master, it's not what goes into the mouth, but what comes out. That's the main thing there. But we're tempted. We're tempted by the belief that certain foods are good, tasty, enjoyable, healthy, this, that, and the other thing. When I got down here this morning, even though the hotel is literally blocks away from Garrett's Popcorn, and anybody from Chicago knows about that. It is wonderful. Caramel corn, cheese corn, all that wonderful stuff. even though we're blocks away, that aroma was wafting through the air. I felt my entire body leaning towards the direction of Garrett's because it smelled so yummy. But there you go. And then last night had a bit of a time crunch. I hadn't eaten any dinner, so the only place was open to get any food. The refrigerator was pretty empty. I hadn't been shopping for a while. Was Walmart. So I went into Walmart. Of course, the first thing my eyes, they have this designed on purpose. I'm convinced, the first thing you see is the freshly made pizza that's right there, So, oh, convenient, quick, grab some, took it home and enjoying it. But then I was watching all my attention go to this. Oh, the taste, oh, the texture. And then the little voice comes up in the background. You shouldn't be eating pizza. I mean, you could eat something more nutritional than this, or, yeah, this really has the calories and the fat and things like that. I can only laugh, just look at that. Again, that proverbial little devil and angel coming up, because we tend to give things power. We go way overboard in this. We have respect, but we don't have concern. We do what's intelligent. We suffer it to be so for now in some instances, but mainly we listen within and we are divinely led. We have spiritual discernment, withdrawing all the good power. As Joel says, people who do drugs, who drink, it's not because they're thinking it's evil. They're thinking it's going to do something good for them. Take away the pain or temporarily fulfill them, make them forget. It's all the absence of the realization of who we really are. That's all that's going on. It's all that's ever going on. So we're constantly withdrawing power and placing power where it really is. In that infinitely pure I am. Not out here. As much as possible, we are allowing awareness to sink back to its source, which is infinite, which is eternal. I heard recently one teacher say, in truth, there is no interval of time between when we're born and when we appear to die or disappear from this material scene. That's so true. When were we born? Now. When is it right this instant? It's now. When we pass from this material sense, when will it be? Now. That sense of interval, that time is just a limited sense of human thinking and invention. It's the same with location, space. Where were we yesterday? Here. Where are we now? Here. Where will we be when this meeting is over? Later today, this evening? Here. And here and now, this very instant, is the holy instant. The holy instant, H-O-L-Y, it's sacred, and also it's whole, W-H-O-L-E, complete, overflowing with grace and love and truth and light, not being added to us. It is what we really are, pure, infinite awareness. It's true of everybody, here and now, whole, holy. Takes all the power away from the calendar, doesn't it? That was one of Joel's biggies. He always said we give so much power to that clock ticking, to that calendar. What's it saying constantly? Well, if we let it, if we believe it, it's saying then and there, isn't it? Past, future, present, all separate, movement. All is now. Nothing can be taken away. Nothing can be added. All is this infinite nature of our being unfolding to awareness, appearing, ising in the moment. And let's not try to make everything one, humanly speaking, material. What a boring world this would be if everything looked the same and talked the same and this the same and that the same. So we embrace the diversity that appears on this level, but we know the oneness that exists beyond what the senses can perceive. I heard a wonderful talk, it was a TED talk the other day, where the speaker was talking, and this is so appropriate when it comes to the appearance of these hate groups and peace groups, and they're going at each other, and the conflict and the tragedy that occurs and the stirring up of this and that and everything. He was saying that everybody's talking about how we have to be tolerant to one another. And this man, bless his soul, and he wasn't even talking on a spiritual level. He was just recognizing what needs to happen, and it just happened to be very spiritual what he was saying, what he was pointing at. We have to go beyond the level of mere tolerance to know oneness. That, as the Master said, as I do this unto the least of these, I do this unto everybody, because I do this unto myself. As you do this unto anybody, you do this unto yourself, because there's only one self, the Christ self. So no matter what we're seeing, what we're thinking about, let's watch where we point the finger. Let's lift our awareness and thus include everybody. If I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. That's where our world work lies every day. So important. There isn't one of us that shouldn't be doing this consciously throughout the day. And if you're just saying, as I did when I first got in the infinite way, oh, there is no world to work for. Well, and absolutely, that's true. But until we see more of that, and see more of what human sense perceives reflecting the peace, the love, the oneness of spirit, we better be doing that work consciously. Having those at least 3 periods just for world work, bringing Christ, the presence of Christ to our attention for the first time, and bringing that Christ awareness again and realizing that this presence of Christ in my consciousness is everywhere, making what appears to be man more receptive to spiritual truth. You could say the infinite way, that's what Joel says, his recommendations, but just truth in general, spiritual truth, openness, light. And then the third period is realizing the Christ, that it's opening consciousness, human awareness to truth, and then that it is dispelling all this belief in 2 powers, all this belief in two-ness, all this human sense of limitation. So important to do that. And thus we're being part of the solution instead of part of the problem. If we just try to address things on the level of good and evil, the level of separation, the level of power and all sorts of substances, whether it's food or weather or money, that's a biggie for most of us. We look at that dollar bill. As the master said, whose picture is on that dollar bill? It's Caesar's, really? Even though the pictures on some of our dollar bills were of great, supposedly great human beings, men, whatever, it's still that placing that false sense of power, render unto Caesar's the things that are Caesar's. Take no thought. Even our physical sense of money gives us a hint, because what other picture is on there? If it's still on there, I haven't paid attention for a while, but the pyramid with the third eye. Exactly. Spiritual consciousness. I am. So we're being given hints. Yeah, it represents Caesar, what Caesar has, government, whatever, but then again, the true nature of supply is infinite internal consciousness, the I am. Rest in that realization, rest in that truth. Withdraw all power from material objects. See, the mind always gets messed up with objects, putting power in what seems to be separate out there, etc., etc. Withdraw all power, withdraw all labels. Bring attention, instead of stretching forth out there all the time, let it sink back in to the I am, its source. It's only purity there. It's only one power. It's beyond good and evil. It's beyond you and I, me and them. It's the embodiment of one, O-N-E. That's why I entitled the lecture as what I was going to speak about. It started coming to me in relation to the message we heard by Joel. And I'm going to say it once again. I know you're probably tired of hearing me say this, but even though I could not have planned this with 10 crystal balls and soothsayers and psychics and stuff, all the material we're having this month just fits perfectly together on conscious dominion. Everything. Even excerpts that other Infinite Way teachers are sending via email who know nothing about what we're doing go along exactly with what we're doing. Whether it's a recording Marty and Liz are playing for Goldsmith Global or some excerpts Mary's sending out from Florida or whatever, everything speaks to that one assuming conscious dominion. There's nobody to blame. And as Joel says, there's nobody to save us out there, either a Jesus or an Einstein or a Bill Gates or this or that or anything. Great wealth, great intelligence out there. If we're still holding to the belief that 2 + 2 = 5, it's our checkbook that's going to appear to be erroneous, the balances, etc. So we make the correction within. And we make the correction, and I think this is important, this has been coming to me lately, knowing that this whole sense of an I that has to die or that's dying or something that's being corrected or a consciousness that has different levels or a self that needs to become self-realized, self-actualized. Actually, all this is taking place in the carnal mind, isn't it? Because there's no God, there's no I am knowing about anything needing correction or developing or an I dying. Now, it's not that we don't have to do the work. It's not that we don't have to meditate and let go and study and remind ourselves. But in a sense, let's stop making this the project that a lot of us make of it and the power that a lot of us make of it. It's a point of balance. As the Buddha said, you can't wind the string too tightly or you can't let it be too loose. If you do one thing, it'll snap. If you do the other thing, you'll get no sound out of it. See, so it's a point of balance, constantly reminding ourselves what the truth is, having those times where we tune within, alone or together in a group like this. We study alone, we study with a group such as this or whatever group. But then again, reminding ourselves, well, it's this false sense of self that's destroying itself, really. It has to, because it's a nothing and a no one and a no power. So even something like that appears to be something and someone and a power has to be destroying itself because there's nothing sustaining it. And I guess if we want to cut to the chase, immediately we just drop it once and for all. But it seems to have, at least for me, some yo-yo qualities. You know, you throw that thing down and all of a sudden you find it coming back up. Or it has some stretch qualities, like a rubber band. You throw it away and something brings it right back, that sense. But again, it's only coming back to itself. It's not coming back to the I that I am or the you that you are. It's all happening in this false sense. So it's a good way to put things in perspective, to relax about it, and yet not relax so much that we ignore. And like I said, we think, well, this is a spiritual world, so we don't have to work for it or do anything. Yes, in a sense, that's true, of course. But until we're there, until we can totally have little or no sense of a me, no sense of a power other than God, no sense of any power in substance or activity like weather, in money, in the human sense of relationships, until that occurs, we do our daily practice. This physical sense of body can seem to present problems or be a distraction. You know, it just came to me, hey, you know, you tend to feel so good at times physically that you go out and you do more activities and get involved in this and that, and we start forgetting about the truth, what it is, you know. And then, of course, it could be the opposite. Something's paining you or not feeling right. Someone tells us we have to be careful about this or that because this is appearing. Then that tends to distract us by going in the opposite direction. So we're constantly reminding ourselves, as it says in Scripture, in Hebrews, book of Hebrews. I love this letter by Paul. 10 verse 5, consequently, when Christ came into the world, he said, sacrifices and offerings thou hast not desired, but a body hast thou prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sin offerings thou hast taken no pleasure. Then I said, lo, I have come to do thy will, O God, as it is written of me in the roll of the book of life. See, the I am is not really concerned with our sacrifices as far as, again, we're not moving beyond what is wise to do, normally and natural to do, but it's not involved in all these rigid practices like what we eat, how we eat, etc., etc. That could be a sense of sacrifice. I'm trying to do this and be more healthy and stick to this diet and that diet and the whole thing, which has its place, of course, relatively speaking, but God knows nothing about that. God is not pleased with that. The eye of our being, I would say, to a certain aspect, again, in the relative scene, is more pleased when we sacrifice concepts. We sacrifice our labeling people and places and things and judgments. More pleased with our impersonalizing error. That's what our New Horizon tape this last Tuesday of the month is going to be about. The secret of the healing principle. Impersonalize, impersonalize, impersonalize. Error does not lie in the person. Good does not lie in the person. All error is universal belief, nothingness. All good is of God. That's the sacrifice we make daily and throughout the day. Letting go. Again, letting go of objects and letting our conscious attention go back to its source, the infinite I am that's everywhere and everyone. And God has prepared a body for us. It is our body. It's the one spiritual body appearing as your body, my body. We have a material sense of it, but it always remains the one. Perfect, whole, pure, ageless, eternal. Again, it's only ever been in the now. The now is in the I am. The body is in the I am. Life is in the I am. Life embodied is life spelled all with uppercase, L-I-F-E. Walter Lanyon wonderfully wrote once that when Jesus said, I am come so that they may have life and life more abundant, he was talking to supposedly living, moving beings. Wasn't talking to a graveyard or a bunch of corpses. So he must have been talking about a different sense of life than what was appearing before him at the moment. So the life we see, the life we behold with the physical senses, the life we think we have or has us, is not the infinite true life. It's just a finite sense of that. It's a mental misperception of the one life we have, which always exists in the now. Life exists in the now. Substance exists in the now. The now exists in the I am, the holy instant, the eternal moment. We can't get out of it. We could think we're out of it or a different place, but it's impossible. No matter what gyrations the human sense of mind goes through, no matter what upset, it's always in the same place. I get this little reminder every day. It's the Page a Day Zen calendar, and a really wonderful one came. If I could pull it up here, I think I lost it on my smartphone. Of course, smartphones are only as smart as the one that's using it, I remind myself. But let's see what we have here, if you'll bear with me. Someone named Dave Eggers wrote, you invite things to happen. You open the door. You inhale. In other words, take within. And if you inhale the chaos, you give the chaos gives back. Now, this whole thing is a little esoteric, a little obtuse, but to me what he's saying is resist not. That's the whole thing. Don't try to put up walls and block it. You know, often when we're in a sense of physical pain, the best thing to do, and I've done this, and believe me, it works, go into it. What can be there but God? I am. And the only thing that makes it evil feeling or seeming is the belief that we attach to it. Human thinking immediately puts up a big NO to this, okay? And then we have to do something to enforce that NO when there's only one self there, there's one substance, there's one power, there's one activity, there's one law, there's one being, the I am. And it even goes so far as you don't even have to put up a no to that no. You could watch that too. Oh, geez, I don't like this. This is horrible. Look at that mind putting up that no. Oh, I got to turn that no to a yes. So what do I know spiritually so I could turn that no around? Then we're still that squirrel in the cage, on that treadmill. It says in Isaiah, ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord. Okay, we witness the presence of God everywhere, even where that big no is, even where the no to the no is, no matter what is appearing. How can this affect the I that I am? Where can this affect the I that I am? It's everywhere. Right now, within the I that I am is the sense that stars are being formed out in the outer reaches of the galaxy. Speaking of money, all the mints of the world where money is printed, manufactured, is in the I that I am. All the banks, all the investments, all the gold and silver, all the wealth, all that is good, all that is necessary, lies at the center of my being, the I that I am. We can rest in that, eternally rest in that. And then we go out and we work our jobs or do what we need to do. We cash the Social Security check if we're on that, or, maybe look at our investments, whatever. But again, respect but not concern, because we know what the source is, the substance is, what the law is. We know that the issues of life are in consciousness. That's what our whole chapter talks about. It's a wonderful one to work with. This is a classic. This is something that we've known about for ever since I've been in the Infinite Way in the 70s. This wonderful chapter and the recording where it really places power where it really lies instead of effects out there. Even our wisdoms for today go along with the theme of this month and this lesson. Prayer, it's all about prayer for today. Prayer is an awareness of that which is by seeing it, not making it so. And seeing is in quotes because Joel was talking about seeing it spiritually, knowing that it is within, having that evidence within. That's what faith is. That's what he talked about on the recording. The substance of things hoped for, that's faith is God realization. Faith is the experience of our oneness. Faith is that withdrawal, letting awareness or consciousness sink back into its source and abide there instead of getting so entangled with all the objects of human sense. Speaking of body, as the scientists say, there's actually more space within an object than there is matter. It's all space. It all So what are we? Mostly that infinite openness, that space, even our bodies are that. That space can be filled up with objects like cells and organs, apparently, just as this room could be filled with furniture, chairs and tables. It never changes that space. It was there before any of this was there. It was there before any sense of this body was here. Any sense of anything we own was here. It's actually where we live and move and have our being. So those unfortunate people appearing in Texas and Houston or whatever actually live and in truth live and move and have their being in consciousness. And as we know that, as we help everyone to rise in consciousness, we will see the outer manifestation of things being rebuilt and taken care of and all that. So very, very important. We'll take our break now and for just about a minute and then hear Margaret Ponga's recording from Nashville, which is Take Responsibility, Call Head Office, Session 3.